6 months ago, I lost my chance to work at my dream company, all because my English was too weak. Today, everything is different. I can speak English with confidence, and I finally have the international job I always wanted. But this journey wasn't easy. It was full of frustration, mistakes, and moments when I almost gave up. If you keep going and learn the right way, I truly believe you can change your life, just like I did. In this video, I'll share my real 6-month journey from zero to speaking English well. The fears I faced, the biggest mistakes I made, the exact steps I used to overcome them, and a month-by-month roadmap you can follow to reach your own goals. If you're serious about learning English and changing your future, stay with me. Stop for a moment. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, how many times have you promised yourself to finally master English? How many times have you started only to give up after a few weeks? Maybe you tried apps, watched YouTube videos, and studied grammar books, but somehow you're still stuck. Maybe you feel embarrassed when you have to speak. Maybe you avoid conversations. Maybe you've started to wonder if you'll ever break free from this cycle. I know exactly how you feel. 6 months ago, I was there too. Frustrated, left out, doubting myself, watching others succeed while I stayed silent. But everything changed step by step. And I promise, if you listen to my full journey, you'll discover that you can do it too. Are you ready? Let's begin. Decision and plan. After that interview, I felt terrible. For days, I couldn't stop thinking about what I had lost. A dream job, a new life, all gone because I couldn't speak English well enough. I almost gave up. I thought, maybe I'm just not talented with languages. Maybe I'm too old to start over. But deep down, I knew English was the key to everything I wanted. So I made a promise to myself. I said, 6 months from now, I will speak English with confidence. I will never miss an opportunity like that again. But I didn't have money for expensive classes. I didn't have time to move abroad. And honestly, I didn't even know where to start. What I did have was a strong reason. I wanted to change my life. I was willing to do whatever it took, even if it meant starting from zero. I knew this journey wouldn't be easy. In fact, it turned out to be even harder than I expected. But if you're struggling too, don't worry. Because next, I'll share with you the real challenges I faced and exactly how I managed to overcome them one by one. Biggest challenges and how I overcame them. Let me be honest. Learning English was much harder than I thought. I faced the same problems most people do. First, I was afraid to speak. I worried about making mistakes and sounding silly. Even when I knew what I wanted to say, my mind would go blank the moment I tried to open my mouth. Second, I lost motivation quickly. There were weeks when I felt like I wasn't improving at all. I started to doubt myself and wondered if I should just give up. Third, I had no one around me to practice with. No friends spoke English, and there were no real conversations. It felt lonely and frustrating. But here's what I discovered. I forced myself to speak, even if I was scared. I started by talking to myself about my day, my feelings, and even simple things I saw around me. Little by little, it became less scary. Whenever I lost motivation, I reminded myself why I started. I broke my big goal into tiny steps, and I celebrated small wins every day. And even without a real English environment, I created my own. I watched videos, joined online groups, and filled my life with English as much as possible. I realized that these struggles are normal. Everyone who learns a language faces them. But if you keep going, step by step, you'll get through it, just like I did. Now, let me show you the exact steps I took in each month, so you can follow the same path and reach your goals too. Month 1, Foundation. At first, I made a big mistake. I thought I had to learn hundreds of new words to speak English well. But the truth is, I already knew a lot of words. I just didn't know how to use them. So in my first month, I did 3 simple things that made all the difference. First, I created my own survival sentences. I wrote down 50 simple phrases I knew I would need in real life. Like, "Hi, how are you? Can you repeat that, please? I don't understand. I'm learning English." Every morning and every night, I read these sentences out loud, 10 times each. It felt strange at first, but soon these phrases started to feel natural. Second, I practiced speaking to myself in English. I described what I was doing. When I cooked, I said, "I'm making breakfast. I like eggs." When I walked to work, "I see the blue sky. The sun is bright." No one could hear me, so I wasn't afraid of making mistakes. Third, I imitated real English from movies and YouTube. I listened to short sentences, paused, and repeated them out loud. I tried to copy the pronunciation and speed. It helped my mouth get used to the sounds of English. I didn't spend hours every day, just 20 minutes, but I never skipped a day. After 1 month, something changed. I could say basic things without thinking or translating in my head. I felt more confident, and for the first time, English started to feel like a real part of my life. But then I faced a bigger challenge, real conversations. Month 2, overcoming fear. After a month, I felt a bit more comfortable with basic English, but when it came to real conversations, even simple ones, I was still terrified. My heart would race. My mind would go blank. I worried about making mistakes and looking stupid. But I knew if I wanted to improve, I had to face this fear head on. So I started small. Every day, I asked myself easy questions and answered them out loud. "What did you do today?" At first, I could only answer, "I worked." But I pushed myself to say more. I worked on my project. I worked for 3 hours. I took a break and made coffee. The more I answered, the longer my sentences became. I did this every single day. I didn't worry about mistakes. I just focused on expressing myself, even if it was simple. I also started thinking in English whenever I could. I described what I saw around me or what I was doing in my head. Sometimes I even argued with myself in English. Little by little, my fear began to fade. I realized the more I spoke, the easier it got. By the end of month 2, I could have short conversations without panicking. I still made mistakes, but I wasn't afraid of them anymore. And that's when my progress really started to speed up. Month 3, vocabulary and writing. After 2 months, I was speaking more, but my vocabulary was still small. I often felt stuck because I didn't know the words I needed. At first, I tried memorizing long lists of new words, but I kept forgetting them and could never use them in real conversations. So I changed my approach. Every day, I picked just 5 new words that I really wanted to use. But instead of just memorizing them, I made a little story with all 5 words. For example, if my new words were excited, invitation, party, arrive, surprise, I wrote, "I was very excited because I received an invitation to a party. When I arrived, I got a big surprise." I read my story out loud several times. Then I tried to use those words when speaking to myself or in any conversation I had that day. I also started keeping a short diary in English. Every night, I wrote a few sentences about my day using the new words I learned. At first, my writing was simple and sometimes full of mistakes. But every week, it became easier and more natural. I could see my vocabulary growing, and I started to remember and use new words in real life. After 3 months, English was no longer just something I practiced. It was slowly becoming a part of who I was. Month 4, pronunciation and real practice. After 3 months, I was building my vocabulary and writing more. But my pronunciation still held me back. I knew that if I wanted people to really understand me, I had to sound more natural. So I focused on 2 powerful habits. First, I used the shadowing technique. Every day, I choose a short video or audio from a native speaker. I listened to a sentence, paused, and repeated it out loud, copying the speed, the stress, and the feeling as closely as I could. At first, it felt strange, and my voice sounded nothing like theirs. But after a few weeks, my pronunciation started to change. I could hear myself getting closer to a real English accent. Second, I found ways to practice with real people. I joined online English groups. I messaged people, joined voice chats, and sometimes just listened at first. I realized it didn't matter if I made mistakes or had a strong accent. Most people were just happy to talk and learn together. The more I practiced, the more confident I became. I even started answering common job interview questions out loud, pretending I was in a real interview. This made me less nervous and more prepared for real situations. Step by step, my English started to sound more natural, and real conversations didn't scare me anymore. But there was still one thing missing. I wanted to speak English not just correctly, but fluently and naturally, like a native speaker. So in month 5, I focused on the details that make all the difference. Month 5, grammar and details. After 4 months, my confidence had grown, and my pronunciation was better. But I realized that grammar mistakes could still make me sound less natural. I wanted to speak English the way real people do, not just the way textbooks teach. So I made a new rule for myself. No more memorizing grammar rules for hours. Instead, I learned grammar through real-life practice. Whenever I made a mistake in speaking or writing, I wrote down the correct sentence and tried to use it again and again until it felt natural. For example, I used to say, "I have been learning English for 6 months." But I noticed native speakers say, "I have been learning English for 6 months." So I copied that exact sentence, practiced it out loud, and made my own similar sentences. I also kept a small notebook for tricky things, like prepositions and phrasal verbs. Whenever I got confused by phrases like "on the bus" or "in the car," I looked for real examples and repeated them out loud until they stuck in my mind. Reading short blog posts, news, and comments by native speakers also helped. I paid attention to how they structured their sentences and tried to copy that style in my daily writing. Little by little, my English became more accurate and much more natural. By now, I felt like a completely different person compared to the one who was too afraid to speak. But I knew I needed one last push to break through my limits and truly own my English. So, in the final month, I challenged myself more than ever before. Month 6, pushing boundaries. 5 months in, I could speak, write, and understand a lot more English. But I didn't want to just get by. I wanted to challenge myself and see what I was truly capable of. So I pushed my boundaries every single day. First, I recorded myself speaking on different topics, then listened back and looked for small mistakes to fix. This helped me hear my own progress and notice the details I still needed to improve. Second, I joined live group conversations online, sometimes with people I didn't know at all. At first, I was nervous, but each time, it got easier. I realized that the fear of being judged was just in my head. I also started doing things in English that I used to do only in my native language, like watching movies with no subtitles, writing emails, or even thinking through problems at work. Whenever I got stuck or didn't know a word, I looked it up and used it right away so I'd never forget it. The most important thing was not being afraid of mistakes. I made plenty of them, but each one was a lesson that made me better. By the end of the 6th month, English had become a part of my everyday life. I wasn't just learning anymore. I was living in English. And then, something amazing happened. A new job opportunity appeared, this time at another international company. I was ready. Breakthrough. After 6 months of hard work, I finally felt ready to prove myself. A new international company posted a job that fit my dreams. This time, I applied with confidence. When the interview started, I felt nervous, but I remembered all those hours of practice. I spoke clearly and calmly, answered every question, and even made a few jokes in English. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was pretending. I felt like myself. A week later, I got the email I'd been waiting for. They offered me the job. It wasn't just a new position or a better salary. It was proof that all the struggles, all the late nights, and every small step had been worth it. But more than anything, I realized something important. Learning English wasn't just about a job. It was about opening up to the world, meeting new people, and believing in myself again. If you're watching this and still doubting whether you can do it, remember, 6 months ago, I was in your place. If I can do it, you can too. But there's something even more important than this story. It's what you do next. Kega lessons. Looking back, here are the most important lessons I learned on my journey. First, your mindset is everything. If you believe you can improve, you will. If you keep telling yourself you can't, you'll stay stuck. Second, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Every mistake is just a step towards real progress. Start speaking from day one, even if you only know a few words. Third, practice every day, even just a little. Consistency is much more important than perfection. Fourth, surround yourself with English as much as possible. Listen, read, speak, and write in English every single day. Fifth, break your big goals into small, daily steps. Celebrate your small wins and keep moving forward. Sixth, use real English from real life, not just textbooks. Watch videos, join conversations, and copy the way native speakers actually talk. Finally, remember that the hardest moments often come right before a breakthrough. If you feel like giving up, that's when you need to push through the most. If you want to change your life, start today. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Take one step, then another. Now, I want to hear from you. What is your biggest challenge with learning English? What's the first step you'll take today to get better? Leave your answer in the comments. Let's inspire each other and keep moving forward together. Your journey starts now. And remember this. You don't have to be a genius to learn English. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You don't even need to be perfect. If I can do it, you can do it too. All it takes is patience, consistency, and the courage to keep going, even when it feels tough. So here's my challenge for you. Right now, write your commitment in the comments below. Right. I will not give up. Or, I will speak English confidently. Or, share your own promise to yourself. Let's turn this video into a wall of determination, hope, and support. Because your journey is just beginning and you are stronger than you think. I believe in you.